All right. So, welcome to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. Today, we have Joe and Amanda Barton. Welcome to the show, you guys.
Hi, thanks.
Good to be here. We're excited.
We are excited to have you on because I feel like you guys have a lot of wisdom when it comes to marriage, parenting, running a business, and also raising boys, which are all things that we're doing. You guys are a season ahead of us, which we always like to glean. The podcast is kind of just our excuse to just get some mentoring from people. And we met through a mutual mastermind that we're both in. And I don't know, we just felt like there was some gold to dig out. So that's what this conversation is about. Just digging into the gold of what you guys carry. So I would love to hear that kind of first step into entrepreneurship. It sounds like it came from, you guys became parents and then kind of jumped onto entrepreneurship. What was your life like before the business? And then what was that first step into entrepreneurship when it came to like running your own thing?
Yeah. So we've been married 26 years now, and the first 6 or 7 years, we both worked traditional jobs. I was a public accountant, did that for 7 years, and Amanda was in the insurance business, technical writer. And we started having kids after 2.5, 3 years, 3 years, wait, 2 years of marriage. And after boy number two came along, we just really sensed like we wanted Amanda to be home with them. And so they were going to daycare before that. And we had a great daycare situation, but just felt like, I feel like God wants us to have our kids and Amanda home with the boys. And so took a step of faith. Our income got cut in half. And, the end of the month, yeah, just like started, I kind of, timing wise, just came into this internet marketing business and digital publishing. And so, started publishing like ebooks started on eBay, like just, and went, and then like my first product was get rid of ladybugs. And it was just like a 10-page report. And then, get rid of kidney stones came in after that. And then we really got into the health niche, just teaching people natural remedies that we found, discovered either that we had learned ourselves or researched online. And then this little publishing empire just like took off, and I quit my job. And so like God really blessed that, really quickly. And so, within 2 years, we went from, both of us working full time to both of us being full time at home working, me working the business and her with the boys. So
Awesome. Amanda, I would love to know because Joe just kind of says, like, oh, Amanda wanted to stay home and like be with the boys. But I can imagine as like a mom and you sound like you're very like numbers, like you care about the numbers. And I think just like women in general, at least for me, like security is a big thing, but also like just having babies and young boys. What was that step like for you being like, we're gonna like do this entrepreneurship venture and like our income is going to be cut in half? Like, what were you like, yeah, let's do it? Or like, what were the steps for you to like get into a place where like, this is what we need as a family?
Yeah, for sure. As our youngest was one, our oldest was three at the time. And we just really saw the 5-year-olds having a bigger influence on our 3-year-old than we were. And that was a shocker to us. We didn't expect that. We expected that, when they're school age, right? But no, like, and at that age, we're like, wow, these 5-year-olds are having a bigger influence than we are. So we really felt that conviction. It was also at a place in career wise, it was, do I move on, further my career, or do we pull back and stay home? And for us, our faith is a big thing. So we really prayed into it. And I really feel like as you pray into something, you're more sensitive to circumstance and things that evolve around you. So that was just a real big factor for us that, yep, this makes sense from a heart place to make that choice. We knew it was a risk and, have people constantly saying, oh, I wish I could do that. It's like, well, you could, right? But it's a choice in how you're going to live. And so it taught us a lot of lessons in how to live and priorities and different things that then we could grow from. So
What were family and friends saying to you guys when you were like making this decision?
people still don't know what I do. Well, it's like that was kind of funny. I don't know. It's always been hard to explain like what we do. So
Well, initially, when we made the decision to stay, like for me to stay home and Joe to be the primary income earner, our family was super supportive. We both grew up with moms who raised the kids, managed the household kind of thing. So that side of it was good. But it was really more like coworkers and peers that we really felt maybe a little more um, tension from. I mean, it wasn't anything bad, but they're just like, wow, I wish I could do that kind of thing.
Yeah. And you guys have now 4 boys. I feel like fast forward, this is like they were 1 and 3. That's how old our sons are right now. 1 and 3. Now they're like going off to college, some of them.
Out of college,
I
maybe.
mean, there's a lot of life that happens in between there. What wisdom would you guys pass along to us as parents of boys specifically? I know we got a lot of listeners with who are boy moms out there. I don't know. Well, what do we have to look forward to? And then also like what wisdom can you pass down to us in that journey of, raising good boys, but also running a business alongside of that, right? Because that adds a whole nother, you know, funness to the mix.
Guys, this is the best time right now. It's the hardest time because the kids are like just, crazy and it's nonstop. But like looking back, like, man, that was just so much fun. And just to like enjoy it. And that's like really one of the benefits of owning a business is you have more flexibility in your schedule. Usually you should hopefully, make that happen. And so like I look back like all the things that I was able to do that maybe wouldn't have been able to if I was working tax seasons and, work for somebody else, a lot. So like that was a huge blessing. So like really just, enjoying that time and realizing like at least this is crazy hard, but like, man, it is a blast. And it does go fast. You hear it like, oh, this goes by so fast. In the moment, it doesn't feel fast, but we look back now and it seems like a whole lifetime ago when we had, little kids running around and now, yeah, they're all like adult grown boys. And so, but also like the concept of like, when you're raising kids, you're actually raising future adults. That's your goal. Your hope is that
Mhm.
they become responsible individuals that, have their own, values and convictions and lives and you're not raising kids, you're actually stewarding other kids. But, as believers too, the concept of like God loves our kids even more than we do kind of takes some of the off, I think, which is kind of a cool concept to think about. Like, so my mom was very overprotective of me. And looking back, I think I kind of went the other direction. I became more of a risk taker, probably because I felt like helicopter mom a little bit. But so I think Amanda's been great at like we speak wisdom into our boys. Like we want them to learn through the lessons. And so, there's times when you just want to spank your kids and like, just stop it, because it's crazy. But at the same time, like, hey, how can we like speak life into them and help them maybe learn why we want them to do that? I know there's a lot of opportunities. So
I don't know. I find myself telling parents a lot, like, um, everything you do before the age of 4 makes all the difference after the age of 4. Like, put in that hard work. For me personally, I've never been like a super baby mom, like some moms are. They love the baby phase. For me, I was like, get them to 2 where they're toilet trained and, they become little people kind of thing. But honestly, those years before the age of 4 makes such a big impact. We've done quite a bit of work with foster care, um, as foster parents working with kids who've been in foster care, so not every situation do you have that luxury, but like if you are raising, your children before the age of 4, like all those disciplinarian things in love really do make a big difference. So
What is it about the age of 4? And now I'm like, oh, I need
So
to.
like we're pretty close to that
This
with
is
Kai.
encouraging because I had a friend ask me the other week. She's like, "How is parenting going right now?" And I love that question. I'm like, "Well, I normally don't say this, but it's been very challenging. Our 3-year-old has been very challenging to me. But why is it about age 4?"
You know, there's something that happens, and I guess I don't know the science of it necessarily, but there's something that happens where they um can just communicate so much more, and like everything's new to them, but they have the language to it. And so some of their processing, before that, like, they talk about like your brain stem, right? And that's like your animal instincts kind of thing. And that's like what you're working with up to that age. I would say in our experience, everyone always said the terrible twos, right? I'm like, with boys, for us, it was terrible threes. There's so much curiosity, but then
I loved 3 years though.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was my
It's
favorite.
fun, and they say the cutest things, they do the craziest things, but there's something about once they hit 4, and I think they start to get exposed to more and more, people, opportunities too, where if you put in some of those family boundaries, kind of how we treat each other kind of thing before the age of 4, it really sticks with them beyond that.
4-year-olds are the ones that are asking like 1,000 questions a day, if I remember right. Like, so they're just,
4 through 6,
yeah,
yeah.
they're just sponges
Yeah.
learning. And
Yeah, man, that's fun. What shift did you see in your boys? Because you had them in daycare. You're like, man, they're being influenced by these 5-year-olds even. Bringing them home, did you see a pretty immediate shift? Just like bringing them back under your wing, so to say, during those hours of the day, just having more, I guess, time with them, in those formative years?
Yeah, I would say, for sure, just like how they interacted. Like one of my favorite books is Kevin Leeman's book on birth order. If you have multiple children, even an only child, it's a great book to read. It really gave a lot of insight into like which of these things are maybe attributed to birth order versus their personality. Um, so yeah, so that was a great tool to read. So a little tricky because the younger two were at home, but they were younger children. So they had their older brothers to interact with and learn from. And I will say, your younger children will grow up a lot faster because they're exposed to the older children's TV shows or, media or language or whatever. So in some ways they do grow up faster, and it's all a dynamic that changes with each child, I think. So it's kind of a hard question to answer.
Yeah,
No, you did a
yeah,
great job answering
yeah.
it.
about the birth order, yeah, looking back, and looking at other families, I definitely noticed that. Like, and I can see that. Like, the oldest one has certain characteristics of leadership and responsibility, and maybe a little bit more stress. And like, number two is just like free spirited and like, loving life and kind of gets the blessings of, the first child plowed the way for them. And then child three comes along and it's like, who's this guy? Like, and so so yeah, and then number 4 came along and like the dynamics of the third child kind of went back and forth and but I don't know. It's just so cool. Like, our boys are all unique and amazing, and they have some similarities, but they have I think it's crazy how one family, one couple can produce children that are completely different. Like they just blow your mind how different they can be. The personalities, even how they look sometimes or how they behave. So
I
Yeah,
love
it's
that.
fun. We're just now starting to see it with our 1-year-old, where it's like, for so long, you just look just like Kaizen number 2. Kaizen's our first, it's like the same looking baby. But then, like, I'd even call him Kaizen sometimes. Like, oh, wait, no, it's Oliver. But now he's starting to like really have that personality come out. I was like, oh, he is definitely different,
Yeah.
in his personality, even his, I think one is an introvert, one's an extrovert. And it's just funny how you could see that so early on.
mhm.
One of the things I would also say, I'd be curious. I've had this come up in a couple conversations with moms over the last couple of years, but when your child is 3 years old, like journal or write or record somewhere their interests, things that fascinate them, things that interest them. Because now that our kids are older, like as they're trying to figure out career path interests, like, I feel like some of those things, the core of who they were was really their interest, their natural draws at the age of 3, which is really interesting to me, but yeah.
I love that.
That is
I'm gonna go
interesting.
write things down.
We see like a lot with even our students too. Like, a lot of times in those early years, something comes up against that thing. Like, if someone's like, going to be a public speaker, right? It's like they had a speech impediment as a kid, like there's like all these stories where you see this
Mhm.
where it's like almost like it feels like a pushback on their identity and their destiny of
Mhm.
some sort. Someone's going to be this creative artist. I mean, how many times do you see this with like Michael Jordan, like going to be this amazing basketball player, but then he was just like, he got like turned down so many times and like
Mhm.
never made the team and like all this pushback in those early ages. I don't know. Do you see that with your boys? I mean, they're still kind of figuring out their direction, I'm sure, in the age range they're in, but do you see that a little bit where maybe there's some setbacks in early life that kind of now is their breakthrough. Now is kind of towards the direction they're going towards, or any you get, and it may be too early to ask that question, but
Yeah, our youngest son right now he's a senior in high school, and he's really kind of wrestling with, okay, what's next? And like it took me, till I was in my 30s to kind of figure out or find my lane or my field of favor and see that. And so like I don't want to rush the boys, and like part of it, the growth happens through the struggle and the process. And so, but as she was saying that, I was just thinking, I have a video of Isaiah when he was like holding a children's Bible upside down. I was like spying on him from above and recording him. He was like walking around preaching from the Bible, like, "Oh, Holy Spirit, the Lord," and it was just like so cute. But like, it makes me think, like, I think he does have a calling on his life, like to share the word, and he's been exploring the he did an internship with the local church here recently, or still is, and like he's struggling just with the confidence, like, is this for me? And it's a little harder than maybe he wanted, but like he's still, it's kind of fun to see that. But like, yeah, we encourage all of our boys to like, don't feel pressure to do what we want you to do. We want you to do what God created you to do. And one example of that is our second son, Cedric. He currently works for our business. He's into digital media, creative, arts and things like that. And he got offered an opportunity to come on staff with Salt Companies, which is like a parachurch ministry down in Lincoln, Nebraska. And it kind of like came out of left field for him. And, he came to me first. He's like, "Dad, they, offered me this position. It's like a 2-year commitment, kind of like a missionary role, but, locally." And, like I could see where it's like, "Oh man, I don't want to lose Cedric. Like I love having him working for me and like he's awesome." But at the same time, I just knew like that's God. Like Cedric, you have my complete blessing to explore that. And like if it's God, it's gonna, he'll provide the way and make it clear to you. And so he, just got that green light. And so in May or June, he's going to be pursuing that, leaving the company. But I'm just like, I love that. Like, giving them the freedom to like go after what God's calling them to do. So
that's awesome. Well, I know we're coming up on our 30 minutes here soon. I wanted to ask sneak one more question because I feel like, raising kids as an entrepreneur, as someone who, you guys own your own business, I feel like we kind of have an interesting opportunity to teach our kids about like money, about finances, about even like, ownership, right? Have you guys done anything in that realm with your kids, like as they've grown up, just in the conversation of money and, like you do traditional allowance, like what, I've heard families do fun stuff. So I always like to ask that question, as we start to dream of like, how can we train and equip our kids with healthy mindsets around money that are going to serve them for the long term.
you got this.
Yeah. So I think that brings me back to another thought I had on one of your previous questions was just intentionality, right? And that's maybe more strength of mind than Joe's. Joe's more, fly by the seat of your pants. And so we've learned to communicate and work through some of those challenges in parenting and in marriage. We've had to coach each other in our own parenting styles to some degree, but intentionality. So whether that's, planning vacation, or we looked at like different milestones in our boys' lives, right? Like, how do we want to be intentional? We did a thing where, for every 5 years from 5, 10, 15, we would take them on a trip,
One on one,
Joe and the
just,
son,
yeah.
which was good. They're 13-year-old. We don't do bar mitzvahs or anything, but we did a coming of age thing where we'd have important people in their lives speak into them and speak a blessing over them. So it was great. yeah, like the community, truly the village of people that surrounds your children. And that's even what we see in the world of foster care, right? Foster kids only have people caring about them who are paid to care about them, right? Who do they have for community? And that's really something as family and community to be aware of. One of the reasons, we debated about public, private, um, homeschooling, different options for our kids, and we really prayed into that. And, we really felt strongly that we wanted our kids to be influencers in their generation. And so how do we come alongside this? One of the big reasons that I stayed as a stay-at-home mom, so we could invest in their peers, so we could invest in their schools and community and really see that generational impact and not just familial impact. But finances was a big intentional point for us too. Something my parents kind of did when I was a kid. When they turned 13, I think it was, or
14.
14. So 13, we had their coming of age kind of celebration kind of thing. 14, we had them create a budget. So like in your whole year, like what are things that you're costing us, whether it's sports camps, church camps, shoes, shampoo, anything that, is costing us money. What does it cost to have you in our family? Essentially, we don't say it like that, but essentially that's what it was.
Except for rent and utilities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't charge that. And then we set out, so this is how much it costs a year, necessities, right? Within reason. I mean, church camp, is that a necessity? Sports camp, it's not a necessity, but it's important to us. So, budget all that out. All right. So each month we gave them an appropriated amount, and it ended up being, and I know inflation's gone up, but at the time for our kids, it was $222 a month that we gave them, and they had to pay for everything. So nice, because you'd go to a store and they'd say, "Hey, mom, I really want these shoes." Well, did you put it in your budget, or have you saved for it? What's your balance? And so yeah, so and they would have to put so much into savings every month. Like, okay, camp isn't until June. Well, I need to appropriate this much every month to make sure I have that money. So when June comes around, so just learning things. And our son came back and said his freshman year of college, he's like, "I'm so glad you did that." Because we have friends who like they have no clue how to spend money, and they're constantly contacting their parents, asking for money and whatever. So far it's worked out well. They're all doing good.
Mhm.
But I do have to give you guys a shout out because of the book you recommended in like one of your first episodes on, what was it? Spiritual poverty, wealth, and richness.
Spiritual intelligence? Oh, poverty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Poverty, wealth, and riches.
Poverty is a
Poverty,
whole-
riches, and wealth. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I just finished reading that, and it is good. And I sent it to one of my boys because it is a perspective shaping. Like, how do you look at what God's entrusted to you? To be faithful with that. That was one of the biggest things. When we did go to one income, like, okay, what God entrusted us with, we're going to continue to be faithful in these things that are a priority. But then, how do we make the money do what it needs to do and still be generous?
That's awesome.
Hmm.
I love that. I love that. Just empower them young, teach
Yeah,
them to
so
manage and
good.
steward their own stuff, even though, I mean, it's your stuff, but like it
Yeah,
just invite them
it's a
into the
principle,
process.
yeah.
Like, I love that. I think that's a very cool idea that we
Mhm.
might implement.
Yeah.
Once we get there. We got some years. We got some years, but man, thank you guys for so much for being on the show and just sharing some of your wisdom, and trying to connect with you guys further and get to know you through the mastermind we're in together. If people want to find more of you online, is there a site we want to send them to or anything like that? If they want to connect with you too?
For the business, bartonpublishing.com has a little bit about us page. You learn more about like our core values, our products, our team, different things like that. That'd probably be the place. So
Cool. Awesome.
Awesome.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being on the
Thank you
show.
so much.
Well, thank
thank
you guys
you.
for what you
Yeah.
do and your audience. We appreciate it, and just, yeah, keep rocking it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. Hey, if you are not a part of our Rainmaker Mastermind, we have a new opportunity for you to book a one-on-one strategy call with one of our Rainmaker coaches.
If you want to get a call with them, see if it's a good fit for you to work with us to build a business that allows you to have time freedom and financial freedom you can get that call at makeitrainmama.com/podcast. That's makeitrainmama, MOMMA.com/podcast.